What's up, y'all? It's your guy, eBay Fight Predictions in the building. I'll be breaking down Marlon Vera versus Pedro Munhoz. Phenomenal fight in the bantamweight division. Interesting fight. Obviously, short notice fight for Pedro Munhoz. He's taking it after my guy Henry Cejudo pulled out, and I love this fight. It's a really great fight. Obviously, Cheeto comes with a record of 22-8-1. He's fighting out of California, age 30. I had a 5'8" and reached a 70.5. Yeah, so it's going to be a big reach advantage for Cheeto. Pedro Munhoz comes with a record of 20-7. Is fighting out of Coconut Creek, Florida, age 36, a height of 5'6", and reaches 65. So, good fight, great fight, actually. I love this fight. Here's the things I look at talking about this fight. When I break it down, man, I was when I first saw that it was Pedro Munhoz versus Cheeto Vera getting announced, I kind of like just wholeheartedly picked Pedro, right? But when I watched tape, and you know what's crazy? Before I was watching tape, I was like, Pedro's the better minute winner. He has the better leg kicks. He'll be better in the pocket. He'll know how to pressure Cheeto, and he'll output Cheeto for 3 straight rounds. So that's what I was kind of thinking, or at least 2 rounds. He'll win the first 2 rounds and maybe give him the third. That's kind of what I was thinking. But when I watched tape again, I kind of saw a different story. Pedro Munhoz isn't the best minute winner for this matchup. He's a better minute winner than Cheeto Vera. I will give him that. But again, he does gas, kind of, and he does... what's the best way to describe it? He doesn't put the output and pressure when you really need it. He's really good in the first round. I think his best work is in the first round. His last 2 fights, he won the first round like wholeheartedly. There was no debate. Against Dominic Cruz and against Chris Gutierrez, he won the first round. And he looked amazing, but again, he tailed off. Obviously, that ended up biting him in the butt against Dominic Cruz, where Dominic was able to output him and outwork him and then win the last 2 rounds. Against Chris Gutierrez, it was a very close fight, so they ended up just giving it to Pedro, which I had no problem with. It was a good fight. It was a good, honest fight, but Pedro just he rocked him really good in the first round, and that's all she kind of wrote, really, in terms of the rest of the fight. But like I'm saying, like, you look against, I know people thought, you know, he beat Frankie Edgar. I get that. It is what it is. Maybe he did. But even in that fight, he could have finished Frankie. You saw what happened to Frankie in his last 2 fights after that Pedro Munhoz fight, right? Like, he got knocked out. So yeah, put that into perspective. His last 3 fights he got knocked out, and Pedro wasn't able to do that. So obviously Pedro didn't put the pressure where he needed to, and he couldn't really impose himself against Frankie when he needed to, because he doesn't have the output that is needed to go and do that sometimes, especially in the later rounds. I don't get it twisted. He's had great moments against Jimmy Rivera and stuff like that. Don't get it twisted, but you know, even against Jose Aldo, obviously Jose Aldo is a master of 3-round fights, but even against him, he doesn't have the greatest output and cardio in the world, and he got outworked in 3 straight rounds. So that's also something to think about here. They both lost Aldo, but I mean, Cheeto Vera, he kind of forced Aldo to wrestle here. And as much as I look at the tape, and I really look at obviously the physical attributes of both guys, and you match up, you know, their common opponents. Obviously, Cheeto knocked out Dominic Cruz. Cheeto had a more competitive fight with Aldo, and he forced Aldo to wrestle. Aldo didn't need to wrestle against Pedro. I would say Pedro finished Rob a lot faster than Cheeto, but Cheeto just destroyed Rob. You know, both guys, in my humble opinion, I kind of look at them like this, like or I wouldn't call them perennial, more like revolving door top 5 guys. Like, they'll be in the top 5 and then they'll get kicked out eventually. We saw that happen with Pedro Munhoz. He was ranked as high as number 3 in the world after the victory against Cody Garbrandt, and then lost to Aljamain Sterling. Who else? He lost to Frankie Edgar after that. I think so, right? He was like on the 3 fight. Yeah, he lost to Aljo. Frankie Edgar beat Jimmy Rivera, then lost to Aldo, and then Dominic Cruz. So he went on a bit of a skid here, and you saw that. Marlon Vera, same thing. Like, obviously, he's probably done a lot less, but He gets the win over Sean O'Malley, loses to Jose Aldo, beats Davey Grant, Frankie Edgar, Rob Font, Dominic Cruz, and then loses to Corey Sandhagen. And I think he's still in the top 5, but still, like, you can see, obviously, these guys have a ceiling, of both guys, but I just feel like when you compare, obviously Marlon Vera has the higher ceiling in terms of ability and skill. When you really, really look at the tape, I have to lean towards, it pains me to say, I have to actually lean towards Marlon Vera here. Obviously, the reach is a big thing for me. He's the longer fighter. He's the younger guy. And when I compare their fights, as much as I want Pedro to go out there and knock this dude out, I just don't see it happening. Do I think Pedro can maybe win the first round? Probably, but those next 2 rounds are going to be very, very hard for him to win against a taller, longer guy that's going to be making his reads. And the front kick to the body is going to be lethal. I think they're not going to go and engage in the ground, either of them, but both guys are pretty nasty on the ground. Obviously, I would say Pedro's the better jiu-jitsu player out of the two, but Marlon Vera has some decent submissions of his own and is nasty with his ground and pound. But I just think Cheeto's going to itch at him. I think he's going to outwork him at moments. I think the elbows are going to be there for Cheeto to get, and especially when they get up close, I think Cheeto's just going to lay heavy leather on the guy. I really do think Cheeto is going to win this fight. I really do. When I look at everything, I think grappling is going to cancel out, and when I look at the striking, I think the longer guy should normally win. I think the jab's going to be there for Cheeto. I think the front kick's going to be there. Obviously, the leg kicks, they're going to battle, but I think Cheeto is pretty good at checking kicks there. I think the high kick's going to be there for Cheeto. The knees to the body. I just think Cheeto's going to outwork this guy everywhere, especially in the last 2 rounds, and it's going to be a good fight. I really do. I hope Pedro can pull something out of the bag and catch this cat. I really am not a fan of Cheeto Vera, man. I am not a fan of Cheeto Vera at all. So it's kind of my thing, but I personally feel like just how I'm looking at the matchup here, I gotta rock with Marlon Vera here, sadly. It breaks my heart, but I do have to rock with Marlon Vera here. I'm gonna say by decision. Could be a really close fight, 3rd round TKO. I could see that too, but I'm gonna say Marlon Vera by decision. Should be a really great scrap. Pedro Munhoz is iron chin, so cracking that chin's gonna be tough. So yeah, that's just how I feel. But it should be a really entertaining fight for what it's gonna bring on fight night. And yeah, I honestly can't wait for it. So and also another thing, obviously, Pedro being 6 years. Cheeto's senior isn't also a plus to add to him. Being the older guy at bantamweight, being 36 at bantamweight is just not good. It's just not good. That's just such a young man's division. You have to be young. 30 is your prime, and to 33, I feel like that's really your best years. From 30 to 33 are your best years as a bantamweight, or maybe you could say 28 to 33 are your best years as a bantamweight. But still, yeah, it's gonna be very tough for Pedro to win this. So should be a good fight. Can't wait for it. But yeah, hope you guys enjoy the video and the breakdown. Go follow me on my Instagram and my Twitter. Like, comment, and share the video. Let's get this eBay Fight Prediction Nation growing. Love y'all and goodbye.
This is Luke and Cheeto, and we're not answering any MMA questions. No MMA questions.
No UFC related. This is random shit.
Yes, we were just talking about water. Water is like women. You can't live with it. You can't live without it. You know what I mean? You hate it and you love it. You absolutely hate it. But then you have to love it.
I'm trying to find the best question.
In Ecuador,